Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today for this brief discussion, we'll see how brief, of Caruso, the Caruso concepts, the Caruso method, calisthenics for brass players is I think what he called it, and also a book that kind of grew out of Caruso's teaching, which was called Flexus and was written by Laurie Frink and John McNeil. John is presently on the faculty at NEC and has been here for a long time in the jazz department. And what I want to do is try and answer some questions, clarify some things, and maybe give some suggestions about how to use this book. There are a lot of ideas out there. Many people have tried these exercises and like them or don't like them. There are advantages and disadvantages to anything that you do. So why should you do Caruso? Many, many reasons. It can be very, very helpful. For one, it's a repetitive movement. And Caruso always used to specify, don't worry about your sound. Don't worry about, if you miss attacks. Don't pay any attention if it's not in tune. And I totally disagree with that, but I understand why he said it. Because when we hear something that doesn't agree with our aesthetic sense, that doesn't meet our craftsmanship expectations, we're going to try and impose something on it. And he was trying to say, no, don't worry about any of that stuff. Just do the exercises. Don't worry about whether it sounds good or not. It seems contradictory. And I agree. I say, no, do worry about your sound. But you should be mostly paying attention to what is your body doing when it sounds good? What is your body doing when the pitch is stable? What are and the timbre is stable? What is your body doing when it's comfortable and it feels balanced? What is your body doing? How are the various parts that are involved relating to itself? So this is a nuts and bolts physical exercise that gives you a chance to look at the basic mechanics of trumpet playing. That's what it's for. Anytime you're playing a long tone, same idea. Slow scales, Clark studies, or it can become kind of a time where you shut your brain off and just go through the motions. So I'm just messing around. I'm not aiming at anything. I'm not paying attention to anything. I'm just running on reflex action. So if you do these exercises that way, as if you were mindlessly doing, sitting on the exercycle or mindlessly doing push-ups or something like that, it'll do way more harm than good, and that's a fact. So what I recommend is that people try any exercise system for an extended period of time. When I was working on any new system, a new book that had come out, I would always give it about 3 months. And what I was trying to do is, do I understand what's going on here? Does it apply? What can I learn from it? That's the basic thing. What can I learn from it? So what can we learn from Caruso? Well, one, it doesn't feel natural. Two, it's stressful. So this leads me to another point. I'm going to kind of survey through the Flexus book, but I want to make some points as I go along. So please bear with me here. I hope some of these things will be valuable to you. If you don't want to play in a non-musical way, if you don't want to play in a way that sounds awkward or stiff, then you have to play in a way, you're looking for a way to play that's graceful. That means it's physically graceful. When you put those graceful movements under stress, under load, it becomes more difficult to do them. So what you're mainly trying to do is maintain form. That's it. You're trying to maintain form. And when you do keep the quality of the sound. Now, of course, you're not going to maintain form. It'll break down at a certain point. And this is the whole point of these exercises. They can take you to the edge of what's possible physically on the instrument. They will take you to that edge, and you'll go there over and over again. As a result, your form will break down. You're still trying to maintain form. Through doing that, you're going to discover, if you pay attention to what your body is telling you, what works better, what works easier, what is simpler, how do things relate to one another. I'm going to make one more statement, and I'm going to start to kind of survey through the Flexus book. When we're working on these things, contrary to what Carmine Caruso said, they are musical. If I think musically always, then my body is going to be finding the grace and the balance and the coordination and the timing that it needs in order to play with beauty when I play music. So these are called calisthenics. Kalos in the Greek means beauty or grace, and stenos has to do with strength. So this is like graceful strength. That's what you're trying for, not just raw strength, brute strength, strength without an application of some kind. No, it's about beauty. So even though your sound might be rough, you're missing attacks, you're playing out of tune, you're striving for physical grace. And as you get fatigued and as you're overloading the system, you're going to fail to maintain that grace, but your one thing is keep your form. I'm going to get into the fundamental things about this. I got to talk a little bit about mechanics today because all these exercises are a chance to work on your fundamental mechanics of sound production. And that's it. I mean, that was Caruso's whole idea. Train those things, then you can play music. So let's get started. In the Flexus book, let me go ahead and show that to you. Here we go. Flexus, an excellent book, highly recommended, but again, will be misunderstood. And one of the first things that people do wrong is they don't read the instructions. Just a quick aside. When I first got the Caruso method, I was in college, and and Caruso at that point was in the heyday of his teaching. And about the same time that John and Lori were working with him, I'm sure. And so I got the book. You're not going to believe what I did. You're not going to believe what I did. I took the book and I just played through it. I didn't read the instructions. I just played through it. And I played all 15 weeks of the Caruso program in one practice session. That's not too smart. So please don't do that. Please follow the instructions. Now, fortunately, I was able to recover from that. And I learned some things from it. It wasn't a total loss, but some of us are kind of maniacs. I'll put myself in that category, and you can easily abuse yourself. So you need to use some common sense. It takes a lot of really good judgment when you're practicing these things. So in the preliminary studies of the Flexus book, he starts out, it starts out with the Caruso 6 notes. And I think I've talked about this before. The 6 notes is just G, G up to C. I'll play a little bit of it. You'll get the idea. The pattern that you're looking for is simple. You can read the instructions and do it. Doing it is the only way you're going to get any benefit out of it. So when I'm doing this, I feel time is the most important thing. So I'm actually moving. I'm subdividing. I'm thinking of a sense of direction and line. I'm conducting, if you will, as if I were playing in an ensemble and leading, or playing in a brass quintet and leading. And this is to me, that's the most important aspect of what we're doing here. Keep the time, keep going. So I'll play a little bit of this. Let's see how it goes. Mouthpiece stays on. I breathe rhythmically, so it's without stopping. Now, there are a lot of things I didn't like. So going back to what I said about Carmine Caruso's recommendations, don't pay any attention to the sound, don't worry about missed attacks. There were a lot of things I didn't like. And as classical players, if you're a classical player, you're talking about refinement of all the skills and all the qualities. You always want excellent articulation, excellent attacks, whether it's a breath attack or a tongue attack, doesn't matter. You want that note to respond immediately. So there's going to be a tendency to try and make that happen. Don't. Just watch it. Now, if you try and make it happen, you're going to start to get tight. And this is the complaint that most people have. If you're someone who makes things happen on the trumpet, you know what it should sound like and you make it happen, great. More power to you. Good willpower, you're aiming at the target and you're hitting it. Isn't that the job? Yeah, that's the job, except that if you're not doing that in a way that's graceful and simple and easy, physically, your system will break down. The people that came to Caruso, a lot of people that came to study with Caruso were people who had professional players who were hurting and they were breaking down and they didn't know what to do. And so that's what he helped them with, and that's what these exercises are for, not to break yourself down. Okay, so much can be said about this. In the Flexus book, there's a beautiful variation, which you'll see right at the beginning, and that's a bending tone. So. So you're bending rhythmically, dee, great variation. And there are lots of other variations. You can do that in any time that you want. Now I said I'm going to survey through this book. So I want to play a few exercises and just make comments as we go along. The next section of the book is the longest section, which is called flexibility. And in this one, you're doing the simple slurring exercises, open slurs, lip slurs. And the first exercises are really simple. I'm always working on refinement on these. And what does that mean in this case? It means one continuous ringing tone as if you were singing. So the first one in the flexibility exercise, very simple. And so on, repeated, moving through different patterns. These are exercises that we all do, right? There's nothing unusual or special about them. It's what goes on in your mind. So when you do the Caruso exercises, the characteristic that you're really looking for, I'm flipping through to find the more difficult flexibility exercises, is free vibration, continuous vibration all the time. The sound is sustained all the time. And you can either be getting this by locking down the embouchure, locking everything in place, or by learning how to balance on the flow. So I'm going to do one of the more difficult ones from the first section of flexibility. This is number 11. It's got an interesting pattern. I try to go faster, I'm starting to stumble. Good, practice it at a slower tempo. These are written in 16th notes, but I would play it really, really slowly first, obviously, until I get the pattern. What I want you to notice here is I'm not going do dee do dee dee do do dee do dee do dee do do dee do. That's the way most people play the trumpet. So an adjunct to your practice that I use a lot, and other people recommend it, certainly Mr. Stamp, who you may also be familiar with, is to buzz it. So do you see what's happening there? I'm making one continuous buzz of the same intensity and the same sound. That's the basic thing that I'm always trying to do. By aiming at that and letting your body figure out how to do that, you solve a great number of problems in your trumpet playing. So I'm going to flip through. I just want to do a survey here. So the next one is, next section of flexibility is called Flexando, which I like. It's got a graceful sound to it. So Flexando is this. Oh, by the way, I'm playing a C trumpet, as you can see. Some of you I'm talking to are C trumpet players. Most are probably B flat trumpet players. Either one is fine. It's easier to play these exercises on whatever horn you're most comfortable with. And I like this horn, so that's why I'm doing it on this. But this is an exercise I've been doing and didn't know what it was. Nobody had written it down. I just made it up, I guess, or discovered it. It's a pretty simple idea. You take, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Through those 7 positions, you can play all the overtones in the scale. So the way the horn is put together is you basically have a series of bugles that is put together using this valve system. All we're going to do is play through the series. So this one goes something like. So you get the idea, and a lot of us have done this kind of exercise. I'm going to make a suggestion to you that I think has been very helpful for me. So all I can do is pass it on. This is something that I work with all the time. It's all about timing, remember. So if I just go da, 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 like I just did, that doesn't have a lot of value. But if I put it into a context of a tempo, see, I got stuck a little bit. Oh, let's put it in a different context. So I got a certain number of notes. How am I gonna think of that rhythmically? Have an aiming point. So I'm going dum da 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 da. You can do anything that you want rhythmically, but have something rhythmically going on, and then change the tempo. So doing it like this, I'll go on to the next one, obviously. So you can hear all the notes popping out, all the overtones. And what the big thing that most people have problems with when they play this exercise is descending. And that's because all of us tend to accumulate tension when we go up. So this is a really, really important thing to work on with this kind of change of range. It is not only can we play it evenly, but are we going and overblowing, overpressurizing the air. Overblowing is kind of undefined phrase, but I think if you can learn to feel how to not push more than necessary, but always flow as easily as possible, you'll have figured out most of the problems with trumpet playing. And that takes tremendous concentration on what's happening physically. So if I did it for you again, so I'm really pushing that air hard. I have an extremely energetic, fast airstream, but you can't hear the energy in the airstream until it hits something. In other words, I'm not blocking the air with my face. And when we do that, when we tighten our chops, when we press a little bit with the mouthpiece, when we push harder, we're basically playing out of balance. So doing these slowly and then doing them fast as a single gesture, and then disciplining yourself to play in some kind of rhythmic context is really, really healthy for your system. And you don't have to do a lot of it. You just have to do it a little bit every day. That's the key. Okay, moving ahead. There's so much in this book. It's a great book. And it's going to be impossible to cover all of it today. But I hope that some of this will give you some ideas about how to practice it. So still in flexibility now. So here we have an exercise where you're tonguing and changing range. And I like this exercise. Challenging. Let's see here. I'll play the first one, which is the easiest one. Now I'm slurring it. I like to do that because that keeps you honest. You have a continuous tone, just like singing, going all the way through. If you can do that buzzing, you're doing pretty well. Good thing to practice if you're up for it. But here's how it's written. So now you're accenting and tonguing on those notes. So you're mixing a lot of higher levels of difficulty in. And this is the way the book works. It's progressive. So you can start with simpler exercises and go to much more challenging, complicated ones. Of course, if you're like me, you want to start with the simpler ones and immediately go through the whole book and play the most complicated ones, and that leaves you without a good foundation for your playing. So please, take the time, go back and work on things smoothly, slowly, and with tremendous mental attention to what's going on. That's what we all need to do. Now, this next exercise is a little annoying. I like it, and it's interesting because I know a very famous trumpet player who has, at least at the time when I was working with him, who has this a lot of this kind of stuff in his warm-up. It might be something like, you know, in other words, lip trills. So this exercise is based on doing a lip trill with a crescendo and a decrescendo. And that puts, again, more elements of difficulty together. If you did it without the trill, you just have a long crescendo from pianissimo to fortissimo and back down again. That in itself is enough of a physical challenge if you're trying to maintain an excellent sense of pitch. The pitch can go all over the place when you're crescendoing or decrescendoing, especially if you do it quickly. It's even harder when you do it like this. And if you were listening carefully and have a good sense of pitch, you could hear, because of all that muscle to try and control, there's a tendency to get tight and lose control of the pitch. So what do? Whenever I hear that in the sound, then I'm straining against the note, bring it back into the sweet spot. Let it come back into focus so the note kind of sustains itself. You're letting the horn help you instead of fighting against the instrument. And that's challenging to do, especially in this range, but there you go. Now, I'm just going to do one more. There's a great deal more in the book. There's a lot about articulation, and that stuff is excellent. But this one is kind of a weird exercise, and I find it actually very helpful, and quite a few of my students have found it helpful. So the goal here is to maintain a pitch while changing to the wrong fingering. In this case, it's starting out with E, and then while maintaining the E, you're going to the F fingering, but you're still playing an E. Weird, I know, and a little confusing. When you get the book and you can see the instructions, it's actually quite easy. You can figure it out, and you can go up through the range with that. So now I'm fingering dee 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 dee. Some people will find that manageable, and other people will find it impossible. And this is what's great about this exercise. You're finding out things about the kind of the necessary prerequisites for actually getting the desired musical result. Now, obviously, playing against the horn, playing right in the dead spots where there is no note, is physically challenging, and that's the point. But if you can keep the vibration going and keep the air flowing easily, you've really accomplished something, and this kind of thing is really going to improve your playing. Now, this goes in the other direction too. So the authors have 1 through 6 that are staying on the same note and doing different fingerings. And now we're going to a lip bend, more common kind of thing. Okay, now most people should be able to manage that. But the farther you get away, as you see, the farther you get away from that note, the primary note, and you're bending downwards, you're going to eventually kind of crack over, fall over into the next slot. So feeling that and working with that can be very beneficial. What's the downside? You're going to tend to get tight. Because your goal, you're thinking goal-wise, oh, I'm gonna make this happen, and you have to keep on looking at the system and make sure several things. One is the tongue stays relaxed, so you're not going, you're getting your tongue all tight like this. Another is that your throat stays open, neutral, not in this position, not with tension in it. The body can be starting to gain tension, so you're kind of, instead of, you lose that sense of easy flow. You're going to start adding pressure. All these things, and there are other ones, are reactions of your body trying to control. So instead of focusing on the musical result so much, just play. Have fun, explore, and see if you can keep the voice vibrating. Experiment with all those things I just gave you, the mouthpiece pressure, what's happening inside the mouth, what you're doing with the aperture, everything that you notice, and so many other things. These exercises, especially the Caruso exercises, which are just long, sustained exercises, are very simple. The exercises in Flexando get more and more complicated as they go along, but they help you to develop your playing to an extremely high degree, and that's I think that's what we're all here for.